Okay to start recording and then we can get going. Great. So yeah, hi everyone. Really good to see you all this morning. And so I'm Hannes Reed, and alongside my colleagues Magda and Sarah have been working on um, something alongside the LPIP, which is part of evaluation and impact. So how can we, help develop evaluation capacities? And as part of this work, um, we've been as part of something called the Trial Accelerator Fund. I just realised how long those and the Evaluation Development Fund is how long that the titles are when you see it written down. But in short, Trial Accelerator, Evaluation Development Fund, they're all about evaluations set up by UKRI, looking at how do we evaluate and address spatial inequalities. So yeah, spatial inequalities exist. This is that can't be disputed. But how do we evaluate? Are we doing anything about that? Are we addressing this core issue? Um, and there are these two funds, so evaluation and trials. The evaluation development fund is a 1 year evaluation, like more pilot, quite experimental in design, whereas trial accelerator a bit longer scale, asking bigger questions, maybe like homelessness or drug use. These are very big questions that need a bit more in-depth work. But in short, it's about evaluating. And this is the 17 different projects come through from UKRI. And I know this is other evaluation work going across the LPIP, but this is one element of that. It's kind of in conjunction. And basically, this diagram at the bottom tries to show that in the centre, there's a coordination hub at City-REDI. So in the LPIP coordination hub, trying to bring learning from across the LPIPs. This is separate again, so it's like a hub and spoke thing again, where you've got the Trial Accelerator and Evaluation Development Fund, so again, the evaluative work, and what can we learn from across these 17 different projects, this cohort of people trying to address spatial inequalities. What can they learn across each other? And that's kind of the aim of what I'm doing. So I'll go into the projects in a second, specifically, but what I'd like you to kind of have in the back of your mind is that how can you take the learnings from these 17 projects and apply them to your LPIPs, for example. So that's something that I'd like you to keep in mind, and we can have a discussion about that later. So I'll go into those projects now. I think it's important to pick up on these specific ones. I know there's lots of words and everything else, but I will kind of go into this to make sure that there's something that might pique your interest. So there's more themes coming up in later slides, but there's two. The first one here is on like health, mental health, and social care, and those projects are really, again, there's such a variety in these different projects. But there's things on like youth loneliness through Queen Mary, one about severe multiple disadvantages. So like the whole system of multiple disadvantage, how we even understand this. That's one of the larger scale problems. That's the acronyms Phoenix as part of University of Edinburgh. Again, health equity, again, University of Liverpool. That's again a more of a bigger system question. There's and again a project called Co-Stars, which is more about how do you address sort of social care and early years and stuff. And then the second theme on here is like, again, families, early years, and child development. So again, this is a very broad question. But one of them is the impact of Sure Start. What impact has Sure Start made? This one specifically in Northern Ireland because it's still ongoing and rather than come to an end. But that's an interesting example of, say, a natural experiment where you've got something that continues in one place where it doesn't in another. And then again, things on parent support teams and those partnerships, and also about speech and language therapy, effectively, which is encouraging vocalizing in infants. And this shows emphasizes the such a variety of different projects going on. So they're two of the themes. Some more as well on the next one, education, skills, and parental engagement. So again, more it's very much aligned with really big sort of systems. What do the different sort of parental engagement have in education? This is like, again, a very difficult question to answer, but something that's takes a lot of thinking through. And yeah, the second one on something around what they call growth mindset of opportunity. So yeah, seeing what opportunities come out from there. Another one on the program, so the evaluation of a program called the opportunity areas, and again another evaluation of free schools. So do these really address spatial inequalities? Another one on the second theme about economic growth, business support, and innovation. You've got living standards. Again, really big, yeah, systemic sort of question. And also innovation in business support and high potential businesses. These are through Nesta. So yeah, this is again business support related stuff. So how does this support wider economic growth and eventually maybe and to what extent does it make a difference in addressing spatial inequalities? And the last two sort of themes that come out of these, and 17 again projects in total. Again, this one is housing and planning and homelessness. So you've got planning delays in England. So you've got housing and undersupply there. What difference does that have in how do you tackle planning delays to build more houses? In short, and others on reducing homelessness in Scotland. Again, a really big question on sort of evaluating the safer spaces in Scotland. And then finally, some on transport. We've got demand responsive transport. This is a novelish, a different way of getting transport in rural areas or less densely populated. So again, you've got how do you get people moving in a less densely populated area? There's evaluations there. So this hopefully sets a scene of the different types of projects underway, and I like you to keep in mind if any of them pique your interest, we can connect you up similar to that sort of Venn diagram earlier to connect you up with those people who are working on these projects. But I want to take the time to kind of go into that detail to make it quite clear what they're doing or help answer that in future. So actually, as part of this process, we've conducted a lot of different workshops and different conversations with the group. And we kind of found 4 general themes around evaluation. And there's some maybe challenges as well. And these kind of are from the start to the end. So you can see on the left, the setting up an evaluation. There's and then hopefully an image of trying to the difficulties you might find when setting these things up. It's not as easy as you might think. Trying to work out a lot of different processes, a lot of new things. But then in the middle, we've got kind of the methods and approaches and data. So what are those novel methods and approaches that are being used? But also, a lot of these projects we're on are sharing data with different people. So what are sort of the shared challenges and also successes of working around getting data from people. And ultimately it's this dissemination. This is kind of the life cycle, the end point of some projects, but also the starts of other ones. How do you disseminate these findings and really make a difference? So not just saying something, but actually changing. So these are kind of the themes that we've been focusing on. So I'll go a bit more detail. Just in terms of setting up an evaluation, some of the call it ingredients or things that people have agreed on that would help, because this is help develop experimentation, and this is an experiment. This is 17 projects who are doing something new. I think it's new for UKRI as well as these individual projects that and first they found like a motivation rationale. The rationale is very important. I think people recognize the value of having a clear target from the outset, and how that would help get things off the ground basically. But also having the ability, so this is like the ability would be more on the lines of the skills and expertise in a team, so building a team to start off. That's a very important part, but also the wider support that a university or organization can have. How do you support setting up an evaluation as a project? And I think some of the projects have, as I'm sure you might be aware with the work you've done, is that it can take time to get this information, this data, this partnership work, and just literally getting off the ground is one of the hardest parts. So I think that's kind of an important part to note too. Maybe how to make that easier. So that's kind of a important point. And then also finally it's the opportunity. So this is the the mandate, you could say, or the conditions that would say, right, we're answering this really big policy question. Let's go out and do it. And these are sort of I think you need a mixture of all these to get them started. So that's kind of across these 17 different projects, as varied as they were. Yeah, these are some of the things that stood out in terms of setting things up. And also around there's a bit on new methods and approaches. So we spoke across the different projects we've spoken to. How do you use new methods? What different things have you been trying? A lot of it actually is around open data, or some of it is at least around open data that we discussed. And these might be things that help supplement what's already out there. So yes, you can conduct your primary research and the surveys and so on, but what is in addition that might not have otherwise been used as much? So such as a freedom of information request. There's another thing on search engines. So this is kind of using like there's a I don't know if it's what's the right word, a command or something, where you type in like search for a specific site and search within there. That helps bring out, say, PDFs, or helps bring out websites that Google might not otherwise, or because of the way that Google works, obviously it's like an ad revenue style thing. Well, ultimately you want to search for a specific part, but also public records. This can be through, say, council meetings, House of Commons or Parliament Library and so on, but also web scraping. This could be if you've got hundreds of places to maybe search through, or loads of documents, then a web scraping option and coding could be a new way. So these are just a small number of the different types of methods. I didn't include all the methods, but these are some of the ones that stood out in terms of open data and how to kind of supplement existing work. And also, yeah, sharing data with partners. I mean, this can seem a bit of a nightmare at times, and maybe it's something that seems easy to talk about, but very difficult in reality. And this is kind of, sort of the learnings that have come out across these projects. It's well, I put challenge at the start. Obviously, it's very rewarding and satisfying when it does work, but it takes that time. That's the kind of thing that I want to get across there. But also these maintaining relationships, even amongst staff changes. I'm sure you might be aware of this as well, but it's it's potentially a constraining factor on the speed that project can go out, that maybe is like a limiting factor. So how to help speed that up in a partnership that might take time, but in future those could pay dividends in terms of knowing who to speak to and how to access information in a relatively quick way. But again, but also it will just involve people at each stage. So rather than just presenting a finding at the end, like ta-da, or asking out of nowhere, can we have this information? This is again, it's not as often well received. So yeah, to make things easier, it's that involving people throughout the process, right from the start to understand at the end, and ultimately to answer the question, what will the project do for us? Not to go all Monty Python and everything about it, but what will the project do for us? It's not just a partner who's in it for the sake of it. They would like to find at least an answer or similar. So yeah, that's some of the stuff from there. And then kind of the last part again, this disseminating findings. So what we've done across our projects is look at the whole range of policy areas. So again, these are the themes that I picked up on earlier. So everything ranging health, mental health, social care, families and early years and child development, education, skills, economic growth, business support, innovation, housing, planning, homelessness, and transport and accessibility. These are such wide-ranging things that hopefully they might hit some of the work that you've been part of, and these specific people that I mentioned at the start, I'd be really pleased to, though they are really pleased to be able to share some work with you, to be able to access, and make a difference in or translate the findings into something that's relevant for your work. So that's kind of, because of the wide range of people, the 17, I've kind of condensed them into this presentation to just myself. But as like the hub, the elements of this work, then that's we can follow up after this. So I really do encourage you to, please, if something hits a note, to get in touch. But also before then, we can kind of have this discussion, prompts, things between ourselves, because ultimately we want to say how have we helped increase opportunity and reduce disparities, and that's, I think, a common challenge and a common thing that spreads across all of us. So again, I kind of open this up now across these sort of 4 themes that we found in the found across the Trial Accelerator Fund and the Evaluation Development Fund. Is like, how have you sort of approached setting up an evaluation? What are the sort of novel methods or approaches you've used, and the potential challenges associated with that, and sharing data, but also like the approach with disseminating findings? Does any of those sort of resonate or be relevant, those findings? And yeah, I kind of like pass it over now as like part of the discussion element to build on that, and also build on previous LPIP project work with around evaluation as well. So this is kind of like an additional element to our developing evaluation capacity. So thank you. I'll kind of be ready for any sort of questions, notes, anything like that people might want to pick up on.
Hannes, do you want to maybe leave the slide so I don't know, people can see it? I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah. I can put the slides back up, just like the question prompts bit.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Hi, I've got a question. I don't know where my hand is.
Hello.
Sorry, Hi, sorry. I'll put my hand up.
Hi
there we go. Hey. Is that all right? Can I drop in with a question? Yes.
Please.
Shall I say who I am? Yeah.
Yes.
Morning, everyone. Or Bore da, from Wales. My name's Nina Ruddle. I work at Wrexham University. We're on our civic mission, and I think this is really, really interesting, Hannes. And I guess sort of one of my questions is from a very much a Welsh context, is like the policy landscape that we're part of and the infrastructure, and how these questions are sort of being framed to enable like the understanding of those policies and whether they're effective or not, and then how we use that to shape policies for the future. I think that's a very broad statement / question. And then there's a second part to it, which is really, really interesting. And that's why it's really interesting to be here today and to listen to you, Hannes, is I guess just looking at it from some of the work I do in North Wales, we are sort of, as you know, Hannes, because you're working with us a bit, we are almost touching on all of those areas, those 17 projects that you've just highlighted. It's almost like we've got a whole massive complex system that is almost trying to do all of those things collectively with little or no resource, but has been driven by grassroots as opposed to funding coming in from a funding council. So it's like, again, I don't know whether it's a statement / question, but an observation as well, is that there seems to be a lot of regional approaches that are often quite organic and messy, that are almost like framing a lot of these 17 areas, and the learning from these could be hugely beneficial to create a whole like ecosystem of measurement that because inequalities is so intersectional, interconnected. It's like, how do we bring, I guess my question is then, sorry, this is like me thinking while I'm talking, which is never a good thing, but is how do we bring all of those 17 things together to have a measure that measures inequalities, because inequalities are so broad in, you know, the social determinants of health, housing, or health and well-being, and the prevention agenda and all that sort of, how do we sort of use all of that 17 projects to really shape and shift the dial of how we measure inequalities, because effectively that's what everyone, I think, is really trying to, and that's what a lot of, not all, but a lot of policies are really focused on that. So again, a very broad sweeping comment, but I feel as if it might stimulate some debate, Hannes. I don't know whether that was helpful, but very interested to learn more and to see how we can apply this in the work that I'm doing across all of North Wales. So there we are. Sorry, Hannes.
Thank you, Nina. No, I appreciate that. I think ultimately that is the aim, is to bring those sharing things together, and it's like, again, that discussion part. So I think that's kind of, this is one of the parts of that discussion. So I will also pass to Glenn as well. You've got your hand up as well.
Thanks, Hannes. Yeah, my name's Glenn.
Sorry, Glenn, I don't think we can hear very well.
How's that?
I think it might be the microphone. Oh yes, that is better.
Yeah,
thank you.
Sorry, there you go. Get it closer. Yeah, sorry. So my name's Glenn Athy. I'm a LPIP fellow, and I'm an independent consultant, but I've worked as a civil servant as well. Been involved in evaluation and research in the kind of economic, local and regional economy space. So yeah, I think it's a question would be, are you going to create some kind of repository for these evaluation findings? And just a reflection on my experience, I used to work for Scottish Enterprise, which is the kind of economic development agency for Scotland, and they did a very brave thing. They committed to publishing all their evaluations, making them public, every single one, and then and they have a portal for it. And then they produced an anthology, I think, after 10 years, just an anthology of a summary of this is the main findings from our evaluation evidence. But I think importantly, in terms of things like when we think about disseminating findings, evaluation is part of their project approval process and their board approval process. So if a project or a program is getting its funding reviewed for another 3 years, say, if there's no evaluation of the previous tranche, then it gets knocked back. It doesn't even get on the agenda, to be honest. So I think one of the kind of approaches is perhaps to ask how can we more formally get evaluations into the decision-making process, like, and I think for things like combined authorities and local government and universities, you could probably do that or influence that, and then have some principles behind it, like you'll make the findings relevant and digestible, and try and think about the implications for future practice. So I think there's an opportunity. I think there's an appetite, but I think bringing it together would help, because like when I do evaluation still as a consultant, and when I write a tender, I'm reading a lot of previous evaluations, thinking, how did they do this previously? Because clients always ask for new methods, and yeah, to be honest, they don't fund the real proper methods enough. So, but yeah, just a few thoughts there. I think there's opportunity to pull it together, have some kind of repository, and then if you draw out the learning, and then you've got a platform to say, can we more seriously consider evaluation as part of the decision-making process? So I think that would be really useful.
Oh, thank you very much, Glenn. Yeah, and thank you, Nina, from before as well, for setting that up. If anyone does have any points they want to bring in on, like Glenn just did to Nina's question, just please do put your hand up. That'll be great, and also in the chat as well. So there's already some questions going on in there, and yeah, Amy, I'll bring you in as well.
Hi. Yeah. No. I mean, I've had a similar thinking about evaluations for some time, and how stuff just gets put on the shelf. And actually, what needs to happen is evaluations need to be really intelligent. And with AI, there's a real opportunity for that intelligence to kind of come to bear. And particularly thinking about what kind of indicators are measured, what's that plugging into, how that can kind of support system change as well, and the measurement of it. So I think there's a really exciting opportunity, and something I've been also working on, which I'm happy to say a bit more about. But yeah, just thinking about the underlying taxonomy that we're kind of using within our monitoring and evaluation frameworks in different places, and then thinking about, yeah, now we've got AI, although it's obviously an imperfect thing, there's a real opportunity that we can, address what was just being said as well. So I think it's really, if that could be done and progressed, that could be really exciting.
Yes, no, thank you, Amy. Again, a lot of the questions here are on systems and big complex things. So if there's a way of, again, piecing that together, if there's AI opportunity, that could be a thing. I mean, and George, I'll bring you in as well, because this is something has that sparked a thought from yourself?
There will be, because I'm on the UK Evaluation Society board, I know there's some guidance being developed around the use of AI in evaluation, which is planned to be launched early in the new year. So that's something to be aware and keep an eye on it. But I can't actually share much details about it because it's under development at the moment.
No, thank you. I think but again, AI is a big topical thing, but again, it's the use. Similarly, how do you use these methods? And maybe coming back to what Glenn said earlier about the different evaluation approaches, everyone's asking for novel methods, which is obviously very useful, but also the existing practices are just important as well. Yes, so, the name is TC, so please.
Hi,
go for it.
Tamara. Hello, sorry.
Tamara.
Hi. So I'm also a fellow. I mean, anecdotally, and I guess off the record, we had someone working for us last year who we found out, using GBT to write. I didn't understand the tone and thought at the time, oh, it's my age. I just don't like her tone. It sounds a bit kind of Victorianese, obscure. And it was when we were doing a report where I knew we had our own data and she wasn't adding it, that I then took steps. Our lawyer then checked all her work against an app that can tell whether or not AI has been used. And I guess what I'm saying is I'm seeing a lot of emails coming in or reports or projects that just read like AIEs, which is really, quite awful to read, honestly. I'm an English graduate. The magic of language is something that's very powerful and can stop you in your tracks if a word has an intonation that's unexpected, which is the crafting of language, and it's magical. And I'm not asking LPIP to become magical, but what I'm suggesting is that if you're going to use it, there maybe need to be a cross analysis, which is possibly a different project, of a piece written by AI and a piece written by intelligent humans, such as those on this call, because I'm very worried that the government with the AI bill do not understand the creative industries and the impact that's going to have on writers and artists, because they're not from those backgrounds. And I think if universities start adopting AI, I mean, I'm in a bid at the moment and we think that they might have used AI to write the bid, and I'm trying to edit it. So I think I think, without wanting to sound old and cautious, I suggest that if there's anything done with it, it's as a cross comparison, because I think we're about to get into bed with something that we don't fully understand what the consequences of it will be to intelligent thinking. And I don't want to sound like a Luddite, but that's just my perspective, having had that experience as well.
Well, thank you, Tamara. Yeah, again, it's important to have those, like you say, the value of creative thinking as people, and that's kind of what sort of my work is. It's very creative. It is a lot of partnerships. And the what role of language, how do you bring people on to that sort of journey? This is, again, bringing people along. If it's something that's just transactional, then that's not there. So I think Yeah, I'm just kind of glancing back over some of these comments, and trying to piece them together really about what's the what we can kind of do in going forward. I think Nina, I'll you come in.
It's just a more of a reflection. So I'm a fellow and I work a lot with practitioners. So my background is in policy and local government, but I'm in a university now. And I think just reflecting on some of the AI debate, I think it's a really important one that we need to have like early doors, because as you say, we'll go down a rabbit hole and we don't know. And I think there are significant consequences, but I think it's more around, we're all so time poor in everything we do, and public services in particular, and practitioners that are delivering for our citizens day in day out and implementing policies. I think there's a real weariness I'm feeling and seeing palpably across in a lot of Wales where I work. And even yesterday I was with a director and a chief exec, and they were just like, look, we don't need more research, we just need to do the stuff, because there's the capacity to understand and absorb it is just not there, and the resilience to almost like understand like new and different ways of working. So I think some of that sort of time poor demands, all the pressures that we know are there, is really reducing our ability to innovate, because the headspace and and that's why I think there's such a leaning into AI, because it's just simple. You put something in and it'll chuck it out, and oh my god, it's amazing. And to a point it can be really helpful, but I think I absolutely agree, there's a level of creativity and a humanness and a heart to the things that we do as people that worries me. It's going to go down a sort of like RoboCop sort of pathway. So I think there's a bigger debate that we need to have, I think, intellectually and creatively, because I think there's a big focus on arts and creativity. And even the last 2 days in Wales, we've been hosting a Wales Arts and Health and Wellbeing Network event for the whole of Wales. And it was all about how do we put feeling and heart back into and really value cultural and arts and creativity as actually the things that make us human and bring us joy, and how do we use them to interpret and understand impact of the work that we do, because everything is all relational based and stuff. So I think there's a really big debate, but I think it has to be grounded in how does that help the people on the ground to make the difference that they try and do every single day. Good people doing great work that are just exhausted, and demands are getting higher and higher and higher all the time. There's amazing work going on. So how do we translate that so that people can use it and digest it really well, and use the impact of all this brilliant work in a way that makes a difference for the people in our communities? And I think that's the big question, but I just think it's incredible work, and I agree with everyone. So Hannah's, again, I don't know whether that was a statement / comment, but I'm just, it's a great debate, so thank you. I'm going to be quiet now.
No, thanks, Nina. Again, it's like the relational, it's not just a one-off transaction thing. And again, how does it help people? Ultimately, that's what we're trying to do. I'll go Glenn and Beck as well. You can both make points, so one after another.
Yeah, it's just can you hear me all right? Just checking. It's just a quick point. I mean, the AI debate's interesting, but I'm involved in like online course creation. I've been for a couple of months, and we're dealing with some people in the US who are really like big in that. And it's interesting that there's the backlash against AI and information overload's already happened, because the biggest kind of market growth in online course demand is in like what you'd call live cohort training, where people actually participate and they're held accountable. There's a community around it. So, there still is this demand for human connection. So it's perhaps just thinking about this evaluation and this project about how you make that human connection. Some people will actually prefer a live engagement online or an event in person. So I think maybe that's something to think about. And also, I think as the language used in evaluations quite technical, I would, if I was to stand up and invite somebody to an event about evaluation, I would call it just improve your practice or something like that, or improve how you improve your delivery. you know, because that's what it's about. And I think that people still in the public sector, you know, evaluations done by somebody in an office in another part of the building, you know, and they produce these reports I never read. So we kind of got to get over that divide somehow, because it's probably bigger than ever because of the austerity and the, you know, lack of capacity in the public sector. So it's trying to find some way to cross that divide and make evaluation findings, you know, usable and used by the public sector writ large.
Oh, thank you, Glenn. Yeah, very important. And Beck.
I suppose just picking up on the AI conversation, because I'm just an early adopter of any tech that's going. So, and it fascinates me. I used to work in a software house, etc. So that's why we had valuations online, as Glenn mentioned.
So Beck, are you able to? The sound isn't great. I don't know.
Sorry.
Oh,
Microphone up. So my take would be is whatever comes out, I'll play around with. And I think when it comes to AI, there's a marked difference between what we have now and 12 months ago. It's astronomically different. But the way I sort of look at it, and this picks up on Glenn and Nina's points, is it's a helpful tool, and I view it as a really, really junior new member of staff of the team. So you have to really explain what you want, and then check everything and double check everything. And I think that's the key. Like what I am quite interested in, and you know, relative to the evaluation stuff, I think with evaluations, we'd shifted to a lot of ways of making them more efficient. So lots of questionnaires or tick boxy, smiley face type things. And actually, they're not good enough anymore because AI can do all of that. And there's no, I mean, you can still use it, but actually, there's no qualitative understanding of what's actually happening. So I think much like Glenn described in the sort of the teaching world, which is happening here at the university, you know, assessment is shifting. How we assess, we're moving away from sort of the learn by rote tests to qualitative engagement and learning. And AI, it might be a backlash, but it's AI is driving a better way of working and a better way of assessing an individual's ability to apply thinking and creatively problem solve. So I think if we look at it as an opportunity, I think that means that then, and when we come to evaluation, there are specific ways that you could potentially use AI, and I think again it comes back to I tend to think of it as giving it the boring tasks to do. So, you know, going through transcripts of interviews, pulling out themes for you, going through case studies, pulling out themes, which gives you a starting point. And it's the really boring, intensive, time consuming stuff that Nina mentioned, that actually, when you're time hungry, there are ways to use these new tools, and it's just one step on from using spell check in Word in that sense. And I think it will generally drive everybody to be more creative, because you'll have more time, you'll have the ability to adapt and respond to things much quicker, and you're not doing the boring rubbish that you have to do in your day to day. And I think if you look at it like that, then it's a helpful tool, but it needs a lot of curation, just like any technology tool. If you look at it from the point of view of Tamara's comments about people using it to do everything, which I have seen as well, it can be problematic. It can also be problematic if it's it will only regurgitate whatever has been done before. So from an academic point of view, it's not giving you new and novel. It never will. And I think that's the danger. However, I recognise there's some consultants on this call. If you're dealing with a consultant, the whole point is to make things as efficient as they possibly can and replicable. So the danger really is when you're commissioning evaluations and you're working with people to evaluate, that you really do challenge what they're doing and you review it, and you also become good commissioners. And I think that's something that has been lost from the structures. Glenn and I, similar role in the RDAs. That skilled ability to commission evaluation has gone from the system, so it puts a bit more onus on us to actually understand what we're buying. But it is important to build up our skills so that even if we're not doing that evaluation, we know the quality of what we're getting.
Thank you, Beck. That's a good summary. I think thanks everyone for all your contributions. We're just coming up to time now, and I noticed as well, Abby, you've commented in the chat as well about the dissemination of different ways of disseminating through theatre or filming. But what I'll try and do to summarize is something that probably what AI could do, but I'll try and do it myself. Is just kind of pick up all the things we've chatted about, such as like we work in like a bigger system. So actually understanding an evaluation of the contribution of one part isn't on its own enough. So we're trying to piece everything together, but also to help make those decisions that inform that decision-making process and help add extra capacity to do our jobs. Whether AI has a role or not is something that's we keep on developing, but it just shows like the importance of language, even to the similar extent at the level of improve your practice, not just evaluation as a total, but improving things, and also about how to learn from good practice, having a repository, or how to disseminate things in a way that's just easily digestible rather than the report. So they're sort of things that if they're, we can help take from the back to the Trial Accelerator Fund and Evaluation Development Fund and really make the most of this project's going on, because there's a heck of a lot that's going on. It's, how to build it all into this bigger system to then help inform our work. So I want to say thank you so much, everyone who have contributed to being here today. As Sarah's put in the chat, there's another one in 2 weeks' time around discussing these sort of good practices on evaluations. So if we can continue that as well. And yeah, thank you again, and all the best for the rest of the day and the rest of the week.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.